Alright, I got the shirt here at my iron station. Right now it's hand stitched to the inside. It's a little tough to see. It's hand stitched to the inside. And then I'm getting ready to form my collar using my pressing hand. Once I get my collar formed, then I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine and top stitch it one final time between the collar band and the actual dress itself. And then I will be completely done and ready for my buttonhole at the top neck. Ready to press my collar down. Using a clapper. Onto the center. Using the clapper. And then around the front. Alright, here's my finished collar. Now all I gotta do is add a button. Okay, when working your sleeve on this particular pattern, just remember to, I usually do a little bit of easing before I line it up with the dress and pull my easing threads from the side that the bobbin was stitched on, and I usually always put the bobbin side on the right side, so I can go ahead and ease that. And then remember that where the shoulder seam dot is on the sleeve, this pattern has a drop forward shoulder, so don't get confused and line that seam up with this shoulder seam. It actually comes to the front, so don't line this dot up with this shoulder seam. It actually goes kind of in this area here. There we go, kind of in this area here. So just be mindful of that when you're putting your sleeve on your dress. Okay, now I'm ready to apply the facing to the dress. Stitch the front and the back facings together. I think this is like step number 22 or 23. And I pressed them put them together, pressed them, and I also finished the unnotched edge all the way around with a serge stitch. It doesn't say to finish the edge, but I went ahead and finished it, so when I turn it under and after it's attached and I turn it under, I can just finish my stitch across the top without turning it in or anything like that. Although it's curved somewhat on the bias, it's not fraying, but just for a nicer finish, I went ahead and finished the edge. So now I'm going to attach it to the raw edge of the dress. Um, and when I'm done, I'll come back and show you guys the finished edge. Okay, I'm just about finished with the dress, did the facing, and now I'm doing the buttonholes. When we first talked about the placket early on, uh, what you want to do is right in the placket area from the stitch to the raw edge, you want to measure. In this case, it is 1¼ inches. So what I do instead of using the pattern piece is I measure the placket, and this one is 1¼ inches, and then I divide it by 2, which is 6250, which actually is 5/8 of an inch. 5/8 of an inch is the center of this 1¼ inch placket. So what I'm doing is for the very first button, I tried it on, made sure that right at the bust area, I have my first button. So in this area, I marked with a pen my first button. So that's where I started. Then I got out the pattern paper and measured the distance between each button according to the pattern so I could get the right amount of buttons on the dress. Since I made an alteration and shortened the dress, this button calls for 10 buttons here on the placket. I only got 9 buttons because I shortened the dress because I'm shorter, of course. So the distance between the 2 buttons that the pattern said was 3½ inches. So I used this Clover, not Clover, this is actually a Nancy Zimmer ruler. And this part goes up and down. So I just found 3½ inches on this ruler. If you have a Simplex, you can use the Simplex or just a regular ruler. So I'm just going to use this one because it has the straight edge here. So what I did was first I started with the button that's located at the breast, and that's to keep the shirt from popping open. And then you can see here where I did a mark. I just did, the first thing I did was I did a horizontal mark, and then I went down to the 3½ mark, and wait a minute, there it is. So I started with my breast point first, marked a horizontal line, then went down to this mark here, which is 3½, put another horizontal line, and I did that all the way down until I couldn't go any further. Then I measured in 5/8 of an inch from the edge, and that's where my buttonhole is actually going to go. So 5/8 inch from the edge. Then I went in and put a cross mark, so I know where to start my buttons. Okay, so what I want to do is the little cross mark or the center mark, I want to make sure that my actual buttonhole is located in that area there. So what I'm going to do is start just a little bit higher than my actual mark. I got my markings here. They're pretty buoyant here on the fabric. I can see them really well. And I'm just going to put on my buttonhole foot and start adding my buttons. Then I can put my buttons on each cuff, and my buttons are shanked, so those have to be hand sewn on with a drag, but that's okay. But the buttonholes will go on pretty fast. And then here at the neck, My first two buttons are going to be pretty close together because you always want one in the neckline area where your collar band is, and then we start down. So my first two buttons are going to be close. All the rest of them will be evenly spaced apart. All right. As soon as I get my buttonholes and buttons on, then my dress is done.